Today in Unit 10, Lesson 2, we're talking about box and whiskers plots. So a box and whiskers plot is a graph that uses medians. So that's the middle number, like we learned from the last lesson, to show variability. And variability is how spread out the data is. Each section in the box and whiskers plot is 1/4 of the data because it's quartiles, which sounds like quarter, which is 1/4 of something. So the parts of a box and whiskers plot, parts of a box and whiskers plot, the first one is the minimum, the smallest number. So the smallest number is actually called the lower extreme. It's the smallest. And then the maximum number, the biggest number, is called the upper extreme. Remember, if you need more time to write these down, you can always pause it as you go. So the upper extreme is the biggest number. It would also be called the fourth quartile if it didn't have that name, upper extreme. So the lower quartile is actually the first quartile because it's the first quarter of the data is in this whisker. And that would be the middle of the lower half. Remember, median means middle. So middle of the lower half of the data. Then the median is the second quartile, because if you think 2 quarters is $50, so 2 quartiles is 1/2. So the second quartile, and it is the median of all data. And then the upper quartile is the third quartile. You can see that I called it Q3. So this one is the third quartile. And it is the middle of the upper half. So those are the 5 parts of the box and whiskers plot. And one of the most important measurements is the interquartile range. So regular range would be the upper extreme minus the lower extreme because it's the biggest minus the smallest. But interquartile range is the range in the box. So half of our data would be there because 1/4 and 1/4 is half of our data. And what you do to find interquartile range is you do the Q3, the third quarter, minus the first quartile. Box and whiskers plots are used to show things that are spread out because every part is 25% or 1/4 because it's a quartile. So if it's really squished together, that means there's little variability. If it's really spread out, that means there's a lot of variability. Now we're going to look at the 5-number summary. Okay, I paused to type those in to save a little bit of time for you, so you can pause it to write them down. First, in the 5-number summary, first you find the median, which is the second quartile. Then second thing, we find the first quartile. Then we find the that should be third quartile. Let me fix that. So that's not second, that would be third quartile. So it's weird because we go 2, second, then first, then third. I will show you on the later how that works. Then we have the lower extreme and the upper extreme we find last. This next part of your notes is kind of explaining how box and whiskers plots work with quarters, because you guys know that a quarter is 25%. So we can look to see that this one, they're all the same. But in the second one, they're distorted because that means that like this, the second quartile was really spread out, but then the last quartile was really squished together. So that's what a box and whiskers plot is used for, to see how spread out the data is. Now try to answer these questions about variability. Remember, variability is spread out. So try to answer these questions with the Edpuzzle and check them with the Edpuzzle video. Okay, but first it might help to know that this is the first quartile because the Q1 is right here, but it means everything in front of it. So this one is all of the second quartile, this space is the third, and this space is the in between is all the fourth. Here's a chance to write those down if you missed them. Now we're ready to actually make a box and whiskers plot so you understand how they are created. First, you find your 5-number summary, then you're going to graph those points above the number line, and then you're going to draw the box and whiskers plot. So step 1, before you can find your 5-number summary, you have to put everything in order from least to greatest. I'm going to pause and do that now. Hopefully you got 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, and 10. So in our 5-number summary, the first thing we find is the median. So cross out the outside until you find the middle number. And I get 2 numbers in the middle, both 4 and 5. Remember, when you have 2 numbers, you add them together to get 9, and then divide by 2 to get 4.5. I don't know why those are suddenly all squishing together again. So that is our second quartile. So I like to circle it and label it Q2. And I can go down here and that's the median. So my second quartile is Q2. That would be 4.5. Get a different color. Now we need to find the first quartile, which is the median of the lower set. The best thing to do is to draw a box around the lower numbers and a box around the higher numbers. So the median of these guys on the bottom is the first quartile. The median of these guys is the third quartile. So I do the same thing. And this time there was only one number in the middle, so that is my Q1. So my first quartile is 2. Now I find my third quartile on this side, so I do the same thing. I cross out until I get to, there is one middle number. So 7 is my third quartile. So my third quartile will be 7. And then the lower extreme and upper extreme, those are easy. That's the smallest and biggest number. So lower extreme is 1, and then the upper extreme was 10. Now we're ready to graph it. So the second step is you actually just put a dot where each of those numbers is above the number line. So I had 4.5, that's in between 4 and 5. Let me get a darker color here. So in between 4 and 5. Then I had 2, 7, 1, and 10. So I had my 5-number summary. I have those 5 dots. Then we draw the whiskers are on the outside 2 dots. And then the middle is where the box goes. I know that's not the most beautiful thing, but that is the box and whiskers plot. Now please answer those next 2 questions and check them with the Edpuzzle video. Now the second example is a little bit different because we have an odd number of data points. You still put them in order first. We still find the median, but this time our median is this 9 because we have 4 on, I'm sorry, I picked the wrong 9. 7, 8, 8, 8. Sorry, don't trust that one. It's the second 9. So I have 1, 2, 3, 5 on this side and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when you're drawing your box for the other to find your first and third quartile, we actually leave the 9 out because they have to have the same amount. So in the last example, that first example, there was 2 in the middle, so we used both of them. If it's 9, if there's only one, like 1 9 in the middle, then we leave it out. So that one is your second quartile. Now I find the median of my lower numbers, which is this 8. So that's my Q1. Then I find the median of my upper numbers, which is this 10. That's my Q3. And then I list them. So then my median was 9. My first quartile is 8. My third quartile is 10. My lower extreme is 7. And my upper extreme is 13. Now when we put the dots, I put a dot up above the number line. So 9, put a dot. 8, put a dot. 10, put a dot. 7, and 13. So I have my 5-number summary. Then I draw my whiskers and draw my box. I notice that this has less variability than the previous one because they're kind of closer together. And I can tell the third quartile is the most variability because it's spread out. So please check, answer those last 2 questions and check with the Edpuzzle video.